We have the social media feeds trying to make you as mad as possible. Easy access to firearms. All it takes is a couple insane people to go to do this. It is a disaster. And the big tech oligarchs are absolutely accountable for this, in addition to the gun manufacturers. Like, everybody is accountable for this. And we're setting up a society where people are going to be afraid to speak their mind. And that's really fucking bad. Hello and welcome to the Bulwark Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Miller. I just taped this morning with my FYPod colleague, Cam Caskey, who I thought had a really kind of moving perspective on the news from yesterday, having been a young student leader, political leader, who put himself out there and got a lot of hate mail and death threats. So go check that out in the FYPod feed if you're interested. But today, we have a doozy one for you. I made a note. This is a Death of Civilization episode, maybe. She's a writer as well as co-host and executive producer of Crooked Media's Hysteria podcast. It's Erin Ryan. How you doing, girl?
Oh, it's been a weird 24 hours, but here I am.
It has been a weird 24 hours. Thank you for doing this with me. It was kind of an accident. We had already planned to have you on to discuss some womanly topics, because I had some women who didn't want me mansplaining to them about various things, and so we will get to that. But I was happy actually that we had this scheduled and that you stuck with me, because I think that we can have a meaningful conversation about what happened yesterday. So just before we get to that, the facts of where we stand as we're taping this. Charlie Kirk was assassinated yesterday at an event at Utah Valley University. He was 31. He leaves behind two kids, age 3 and 1. At the time of this taping, a manhunt is underway for the shooter who fired from a nearby roof. Police have not released a suspect at this time. So much to discuss, Erin. I guess just first, what was your kind of initial reaction yesterday and this morning after having a night to sleep or not sleep on it?
Well, when it happened yesterday, it happened so fast. These things happen so fast that you kind of like are trying to play catch up with like the facts on the ground and like your actual emotional response to said facts. I saw the video of it happening. I wish I hadn't seen the video of it happening.
I stopped it before it got to the bad part.
It was like seconds after it happened, and like the video was posted, and I watched it, and it was horrible. It was just a horrible thing. And my first thought was just, we knew there was a shooting event, right, at a university. And I thought that there would be like a lot of people who had been killed. And when I found out that only one shot had been fired, and it was the shot that I saw the video of, it was just, I was like, what's going on? Like, why would anybody do this? Like, what's happening? I really feel for his kid. His kids are exactly the same age as my kids, like exactly the same age. And like, I feel like that sucks. Like they lost a dad, and they, whoever Charlie Kirk was in public is not necessarily who he was as a dad. And I feel like, that's really sad that those kids lost their dad. And then as time went on, I kind of saw how the kind of anger sphere was really champing at the bit to make this like their new cause. It seemed like there is a backed up desire to unleash just ultra violence on anybody who is deemed an enemy of MAGA. And by the evening, I was pretty scared. I was like, oh, I do a podcast. I talk into a microphone. Sometimes I do live events. Like, what level have we reached of things being like untenably divided that now assassination has to be something that people are concerned about? Okay, so then next stage, overnight, I started thinking about like Charlie Kirk, who he was.
Can we just get to that in a second? Like, just really quick, I want to sit on the first 2 points, because also the stuff with his kids is just tough. And I think it's just important to just say that. I know that there's also a school shooting yesterday. As of this time, as we're taping it, I think there's one person still in critical condition. The shooter killed themselves. So hopefully they all come out. But I'm sure like you and like some listeners, I making sure my kid knows I love her last night, and that is that's really hard. And the videos I did see were in my feed of him with his kids that MAGA accounts I follow were sharing, and it's too much for them. In addition to those kids, the other kids that were traumatized by this yesterday were the kids that had to watch it. Right, we're talking about watching it on video, but
they were there.
He has an event there that the point of the event is to have people debate and disagree. So it wasn't even just all of his supporters there. Not that would have made it any better, but it was a diverse array of students on that campus that just are now traumatized by now being part of a school shooting and assassination, and they had to watch it and be scared. And I just, I think that is not a world that we want to be living in. So anyway, I just wanted to sit on that for a second. So I guess one more thing, actually, before we get to Charlie, you talked about the reaction in the magosphere and the rage reaction, and I think it's scary. It's no doubt scary. I also saw a lot of rage coming Charlie's way, which is a little scary. And JVL wrote this last night for us in the Triad, which I liked. He wrote this. He said, "If we're lucky right now, our leaders will understand that Charlie Kirk's assassination was not just evil, but profoundly dangerous for all of us." I just want to sit on that statement for a second. Profoundly dangerous for all of us, right? And I don't mean even all of us podcasters, but all of us Americans, right? That if we get into a place of escalating violence on this, we're already seeing of escalating power grabs. Anyway, I think that takes us to a bad place. And I guess, I wanted to play just a couple of clips of reactions to try to model behavior, if that's okay. We have Jesse Waters. I'll put this in your anger verse category. Let's listen to Jesse first.
We're going to avenge Charlie's death in the way Charlie would want it to be avenged. They are at war with us. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us. And what are we going to do about it? How much political violence are we going to tolerate? And that's the question we're just going to have to ask ourselves.
Saw another guy, Matt Forney, who had 2 million views on this post. Charlie Kirk being assassinated as the American Reichstag fire.
Well, you're not supposed to say that. It wasn't the Reichstag fire pretext? It was pretext used by the Nazis to seize total control. I mean, also
that was, just to be clear, that is a MAGA account. It's time for a complete crackdown on the left. Is the next statement. It was not because in theory, I guess could have been a lefty conspiracy theorist trying to make it seem like that. No, that was a MAGA account bragging about it.
Well, first of all, not to be pedantic, but wouldn't it be more like the Ernst von Rom?
Thank you. I don't know that they go that deep. Oh, maybe I guess I was going to say I don't know if they go that deep on German history, but it might be the one area of history where they do go very deep.
Yeah,
so
I feel like there's a lot of enthusiasm about German history. Jesse Waters' statement could have been shortened to 3 words. Just get him, boys. I don't think Jesse Waters is personally planning on going out and avenging Charlie Kirk's death. Jesse Waters is trying to incite people to go out and avenge Charlie Kirk's death. I also think
he's got his second wife, the producer, that and his penthouse in New York. He's cool.
He's going to be above the avenging or whatever. But the thing about Charlie Kirk's death that really got to me, I don't think Charlie Kirk thought that he would ever be somebody who would be on the receiving end of political violence. I don't think Jesse Waters thinks he's someone that would ever be on the receiving end.
Even after Trump's?
No, I don't think so. I mean, why would he be doing an event out in an open field with that level of security? It just feels why would he be doing a campus tour? He was kicking off a giant campus tour. I think he'd just gone to Texas A&M and he was going to a couple other, he's going around the country basically taking a victory lap for conservatives, cultural and electoral victories in recent years, or for MAGA conservatives. I don't think that he thought that he would ever be somebody who would actually be caught up in it. I don't think any of these inciters in the anger sphere actually think that they're going to be the ones that have to deal with it. And that is the thing that I think goes with what you were saying about it makes, the world is more dangerous for everybody. This country is more dangerous for everybody because nobody is above it.
Right.
You
can say it about the anonymous commenters too, from all sides. You know what I mean? Anybody the anger sphere, it's the leader. Obviously, they hold more responsibility than Jesse Waters, but the same premise is true, right? Like a notion for anyone that is out there posting, about whatever their bloodlust
absolutely
this morning.
Absolutely.
They don't think that they're coming for them, right? And
no. And but I also think, all it takes is one person who is unhinged enough and angry enough and whipped into enough of a froth to take action, like the person who shot those 4 lawmakers in Minnesota and killed Melissa Hortman and her husband and their dog. Like, that was somebody that all it takes is one person. And I think that when there's this much rage and this much angry, divisive rhetoric and dehumanizing of the other side, which, talk about, like, I know that it's like lame to compare things to Nazi Germany, but talk about Nazi Germany, the dehumanization just happening when it comes to the left in the aftermath of this is like very, very scary.
Yeah. And easy access to guns. I said this to Sarah yesterday. I'm kind of of two minds about this whole thing. I got very frustrated after the Trump assassination attempts about the kind of like rhetoric policing efforts. Actually, not the rhetoric policing. That doesn't really frustrate me. The police. Nobody should be calling for people's death. It's just, it doesn't do any good. Okay, like it doesn't do any good. And you might not have to share my view that all humans have value, but it still doesn't do any good for people to have that type of rhetoric. It's the blaming that I got uncomfortable with, right? Like this notion that it was like, whatever, because somebody said this or somebody said that, this happened. And it's kind of like, well, I mean, we have easy access to guns in this country, and we have a lot of crazy people, and there's a lot of crazy people in any country. And if you have crazy people and easy access to firearms, like that's really the main problem here. I mean, we can all try to be our better selves, but like that's the main problem here. And so on the one hand, like I feel that way and get frustrated. On the other hand, it's like, we should be calling on people to model better behavior. We should be calling out assholes that are anger, fucking that, make money or get following based on riling people up. Right. So I sort of vacillate on that topic. Where are you at on all that?
Well, I think that I understand why a lot of people seem like they're kind of tiptoeing around what they really want to say when they're talking about this, because it's like a scary time and nobody wants to you're in a room with
you see a lot of tiptoeing. I would like to see a little more tiptoeing. But
no, I'm talking about like mainstream media. I'm talking about like MSNBC letting somebody go for kind of saying like pretty anodyne comments. Like, maybe
we should say, since you brought that up, that Matt Dowd suggested on TV that the assassination of Charlie Kirk might have been a fan of Charlie Kirk firing off a victory shot. So regardless of what you think about the moral valence of that statement, that is a very stupid thing to say on TV. And as somebody who's on TV a lot, and that's hey, there but for the grace of God go I, that's still really dumb. That's all.
Okay. But there are dumb things said on TV all the time that are not.
Jesse Waters wasn't fired, for example. Maybe a worthwhile contrast.
Exactly. Like inciting actual violence, not a fireable offense. Saying something about someone in Utah shooting off a gun in celebration it doesn't quite make sense. I also I'm a little bit tired of a demand for like sympathy or empathy from the right. I do feel empathy for those children. I feel sympathy for those children. I feel for people who are his friends. I feel sad for them. But I also can't talk about Charlie Kirk's death without talking about the role that he played in help building a rhetorical architecture that was eager to scapegoat people, was eager to villainize and demonize people. His last words before that shot was fired were trying to blame trans people for mass shootings. In the past, Charlie Kirk has been a mass shooter apologist. He's described the deaths of 6 people in a school in Nashville as part of the cost of the Second Amendment. He's a professional talker. He used those words deliberately. I feel like we need to talk about the fact that like he helped build the machinery that ultimately led to his demise, and that a lot of people who are, in the trans community are less safe because of rhetoric that he used to, spout, and that others in that space used to spout. Trans people are less safe. LGBTQ people are less safe. Like people have a terrible view of women, like Gen Z men especially have a terrible retro view of women. Like misogyny, racism being normalized as part of a way that normal people speak to each other, it is not something that leads anywhere good either. And I'm not blaming him for what happened. I wish Charlie Kirk had not been shot. It was a tragedy. But I think the world that people like Charlie Kirk are trying to build or we're advocating for is one where that would happen more often. Does that make sense? I don't want to sound like
no, it does make sense. And I think it's important we talk about that and hash it out, because Charlie Kirk said a lot of fucking gross shit. You just search my Twitter feed, Charlie Kirk, and see all the times that I criticized him, or I can show you my texts from his PR guy, who I became kind of friends is the wrong word, but we had an open dialogue relationship. He's kind to me, and you know, we'd text back and forth, where I'd shit on Charlie and tell him that what he's doing is irresponsible, and he'd text me and say, "Oh, look what MS." You know, I have no quarter for Charlie Kirk's political agenda. Here's my problem with kind of like the response sometimes is that what happened yesterday helped his political agenda. Period. Full stop. And so, like, I don't think that it's wrong to say, here are the dehumanizing things that were advanced by Turning Point USA, and we should fight against those, and we should try to challenge those and beat them politically and beat them rhetorically and win young people back. Like, sure. But when that bleeds over into like some of the other stuff I've seen about whether this was deserved, whether he asked for it or all that, I think that is morally reprehensible and wrong. Even if he did it, I don't aspire to be like him. Just because he did false shit after this stuff after the Minnesota killings, I don't want to be like that. But like, also, just even if you disagree with the morally, I guess my point is, this is a political disaster for the anti-Charlie Kirk movement. What happened yesterday is a disaster. Like, that he is empowered now, or his movement is empowered now. He's dead. He is a martyr now. You can see people rally around him. I saw a bunch of people in my feed who are like non-political, raising him up and raising up his movement yesterday. You can see a righteousness building on the right. You can imagine young people rallying around this. Like, I think like what happened, like the martyring Charlie Kirk is the worst fucking thing that could happen. Even if you're not trying to be a good person or care about empathy or morality or whatever, just as a purely political matter, I see things in my feed that are like fascist desert. Like, what? You're not fighting fascism. You're helping fascism by killing Charlie Kirk. You're helping fascism. You're making fascism more likely because Donald Trump is going to use this to try to gather more power. So I guess that's
I see what you're saying, and I agree. I want to say, I think you and I probably have like different following groups, in our social media. My social media was populated with a lot of people who felt angry and betrayed by the fact that so many people in like the mainstream media, like your CNNs and your MSNBCs, et cetera, seemed so afraid of acknowledging who Charlie Kirk was as part of his job, and what he did as part of his job, and what harm he caused people as part of his job. Like, I think that like people are so afraid of endangering themselves or their workplaces or their coworkers in this moment that they're not really like, they're kind of backing away from it. People that I follow were not like celebrating his death, but they were kind of just like, why aren't people being more honest about what his legacy is? And I think that's something that I'm noticing. I want to say one thing that I haven't seen discussed very much when it comes to Kirk. That's like the culpability of Silicon Valley in helping kind of bring about the world that we're living in right now.
Yes.
Charlie Kirk got very rich and famous, exploiting algorithmic engagement that rewards rage and rewards outrage and anger. And like, he took advantage of a system that like is designed for people like him to rise in it. So I feel like social media, I know social media is like an easy thing to beat up on, but like, we should not let it off the hook. It is culpable in this.
It's an important thing to beat up on now, because it's like my colleague Andrew Egger, I thought, wrote a really nice morning shots this morning. Folks should read about this. And this was one of the sentences he said about the social media stuff. Maybe I'm participating in this right now by elevating some of the terrible shit I saw. But he goes, following what you expect from political leaders, which was mostly condolences to Kirk's family. Below that, see an inescapable culture war, each side excoriating the other. It barely mattered how representative of their broader political cohorts these posters were. Every American social media algorithm made sure they got to see whichever ones would make them the maddest. Mm-hmm. And that's true, right? And like that is true, right? In addition to, as you said, Charlie Kirk leveraged this quite well during his career. But like, if the stuff that gets the most engagement, that gets the most put in your face, is the stuff that's going to piss you off the most, then again, all it takes is one crazy and you live in a country with just unlimited access to firearm power, unimaginable, like fucking even 3 decades ago, like the amount of AR-15s that have proliferated. Like, so if you live in that country, we have the social media feeds trying to make you as mad as possible, easy access to firearms. All it takes is a couple insane people to go to do this. That is just a powder keg. This is a disaster. And the big tech oligarchs are absolutely accountable for this, in addition to the gun manufacturers. Like, everybody is accountable for this. And we're setting up a society where people are going to be afraid to speak their mind. And that's really fucking bad.
Yeah. A prerequisite for participating in society, or like for being a, professional communicator, is basically to like live inside an anger machine all day long, every day. And like it drives people, it drives people nuts. And even people who are like semi-normal can be just driven nuts by it. I think it is something that, like, I wish if we were going to try to like unite the left and right on this, we should be like, hey guys, this is bad. It's making us unhappy. It's making us feel terrible about ourselves. It's making us feel terrible about everybody else. Like, what are we doing? What
going
is
after the phones? The phones definitely feels like a safer enemy than the guns. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm all for still going after the guns. I know people are sick of talking about that. I'm not, but the phones. Like the whole premise, like the Elon Musk premise that Twitter is the town square and everybody has a right to. Twitter's not the fucking town square. Like, you're using you're making billions by trying to piss people off, by finding the most insane people that you can find anywhere in the world and then giving them a global town square to radicalize people. Right? Like, that is what's happening. Like, this is not, and you, in these moments, like, you see it so acutely.
Yeah. I mean, Twitter is like a town square where you can just stand there and you scream the craziest thing you think at the top of your lungs. And then somebody is like, I think that too. And then they find you. And then you join together and you scream it together. And soon there's like 5 of you screaming the craziest thing at the top of your lungs. It's like, it emboldens people. It lets people think that their fringe beliefs, their unexamined fringe beliefs, are more mainstream and common sense than they actually are. But like, let's talk about the guns a little too, because they were in Utah. They're like, no gun laws in Utah. Yep. I've spent a lot of time in Utah. They tackled
a guy because he had it was a different guy with a gun. They assumed it was him. Yeah.
And professors in Utah college professors are terrified today because I think in Utah, there's a law that students are allowed to open carry in the classroom and teachers can't stop them. So like they're of age, they're adults, right? So like college kids are able to just like go into their lecture halls with guns. And that's not something that like professors can ask them to not do. Like, there's guns everywhere. People open carry. Like, it is jarring to be pretty much anywhere outside of Salt Lake City, where you'll sometimes see it in Salt Lake City. But like most of the rest of Utah, there's just like guns everywhere. The fact that Charlie Kirk's security did not like operate with that assumption, I don't know.
Maybe they did. This is the thing. I was texting with Ryan Bussey this morning. He's a gun control advocate. He used to work for a gun company. He's come around, seen the danger of firearms, and so he's like a real expert on this stuff. And he was like, dude, it's like the scary thing about all this is like, to somebody who doesn't shoot guns, which is me. Like, I fucking grew up in suburban Denver, and guns scare me, and I never was a gun shooter. I don't know anything about guns. I can't tell you anything about guns. He's like, it might seem like it was really skill, like it took real skill, right? Like it looks like the guy's really far away, like to a naked eye. He's like, man, it's like so many people can do that shot. He's like, it was two, I forget if he said 200 feet or 200 yards, whatever it was. He's like, so many people can do that shot. He said the scary thing, they had security there. Obviously, Trump had Secret Service. He's like, the scary thing about this is like, with the type of weapons that we have in this country, how easy that is. He's like, that's the scary thing about this. Like, that security really isn't. I mean, sure, people should have security and stuff, but like, if anything, like
do?
the proliferation of guns is like is the fundamental problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously you see this with all the other examples.
Well, guns and people team up to kill people. And so we've talked about the phone thing, which is like people's brains being turned into Swiss cheese. Yeah. And then they have access to guns. It's just, it's an inevitability. And I feel like this is going to make it difficult for people who tour college campuses and speak to do outdoor events, or it's going to make people question whether or not to move things indoors. You know, like
which means we're not in a free country. That's the point. And I made this point yesterday with Sarah, and it's just like, I know that the gun people like to talk about how they want to own guns so they can live in a free country, but you actually aren't in a free country if you don't feel free to go into a college campus and say what you think.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know?
I agree. Even if it's like really awful stuff.
Even if it's bad stuff.
Really awful stuff that demonizes and dehumanizes people who have done nothing wrong in order to become rich and famous, which is what Charlie Kirk did in life.
I just had one more thing I wanted to say about the phones. I'm in an and another thing mode today, so hopefully you can also feel free to be in that mode if you want and not answer my questions and just rant. But like, in my feed this morning, I have like simultaneously people saying that I'm responsible for Charlie Kirk's death, and also because I do anti-Trump media, and also people who are like, whatever, you're too nice to him, he deserves it. And like, again, if this was really the town square, like imagine I'm sitting, I'm thinking about like sitting out, I don't know, where was I? I was on vacation this year in Spain. And there's this in the gay neighborhood in Barcelona. There's this beautiful square that people sit out in and have wine. It's a nice life, you know. People smoke cigarettes and drink wine. And we were sitting out there just kind of watching the gays frolic back and forth for a couple hours one day. It's a nice vacation day. And like, imagine if I'm in that town square and instead people are coming up to me going, You're complicit in murder. Like, fuck you. You're a Nazi. You're Antifa. I'm just like, okay, well, I'm not going to sit in this town square anymore, right? You know what I mean? Like people, or if you're at a restaurant, the manager is going to come over and be like, sir, ma'am, like, please, like, you need to go. Like, I'm going to call the police, right? Like, it isn't true. Like, that isn't how society is actually supposed to work. But we have now emboldened these guys to become the richest people in history, making a completely toxic environment that breaks everybody's brain and makes everybody upset at each other. And there's no, and we decide, and the government, not we, but our government decided to make no rules around it at all. So there you go. So that's fun.
I agree with you there. I think it's, it creates a town square where the only people there are assholes. Like, can I say that? It's like a,
does that include me?
No, I mean, me too. I mean, I'm there sometimes too, just being an a-hole. And like, it doesn't contribute to anybody's like mental health, well-being. It doesn't make me feel good to be in fights on Twitter. It doesn't, like, I go on rarely now, because feels like a gross place.
Yeah. I noticed
it's like,
that.
Yeah,
unfortunately the other apps weren't really much better of a place for me yesterday. All right, guys, we have a new sponsor in the clothing space, and I've got some of their clothes, and I could not be more thrilled about it. It's Mack Weldon. From the gym to work to a night out or summer adventures, you're going to want clothes that feel comfortable anywhere. Mack Weldon has breathable clothes to keep you cool, comfortable, and stylish. I availed myself of something from their new Tech Linen line, which combines the easy charm of classic linen with their Cool Max technology. I was in a white linen shirt the other day. I was looking good, feeling good. It was breathable in the New Orleans air. Could not have been more thrilled. Mack Weldon balances classic pieces with updated details to keep you looking sharp. They're a go-to choice for guys who want to look good without trying that hard. You know, one time back in college, a girl in my dorm said to me that I had the best choices of clothes worn the most poorly because I didn't try. So it was always wrinkled and shit. So anyway, if only I had Mack Weldon, then I could have looked good without trying hard, which is what I always tried to do. Get breathable clothes you can feel comfortable in all summer. Go to MackWeldon.com and get 20% off your first order of $125 or more with promo code TheBulwark20. That's MackWeldon.com. Promo code TheBulwark20. Two other things on this, and I want to move on to some other topics. We kind of already threw the rhetoric modeling portion of our podcast, but I feel obliged to at least play a little bit. I had saved some of what James Tallarico played yesterday. We don't need to listen. It's kind of long, so I'll put it in the link in the show notes for people. But I want to play Zoran. This was Zoran last night.
Charlie Kirk is dead. Yet another victim of gun violence in a nation where what should be a rarity has turned into a plague. It cannot be a question of political agreement or alignment that allows us to mourn. It must be the shared notion of humanity that binds us all.
To the point of the plague that he brings up, I thought that was really nice. In May, 2 young employees of Israel's D.C. embassy were killed. In June, shooting of 2 Minnesota state lawmakers. We've talked about this and their families. Firebombing of a march that was for the hostages in Israel. In Colorado, the guy that shot at the CDC. The security guard died, shot 500. Thank God. Like, that could have been way worse. I mean, they're just.
Josh
so
Shapiro,
many.
the governor of Pennsylvania, was a Molotov cocktail was thrown into his house on a Jewish holiday, I believe. Yeah. It's bad, and I think political violence and gun violence are a plague that are one in the same in the U.S. because that's where we're at. And I think characterizing Charlie Kirk as a victim of that is also a very smart way to put it, because he is a victim of it. And also a promoter of it, but he's also a victim of it. And it's very sad. Yeah.
Final topic on this. You kind of referenced our unreliable. Would that be the word we would use? How about incompetent? How about incompetent leadership of the FBI? Kash Patel, former January 6th children's book author and podcaster, is now head of the Bureau. He was live tweeting the investigation yesterday. He posted that they had got the suspect, got their guy, had to post again that they'd freed him later. We should also point out that Kash had fired Mehtab Syed. She's a Pakistani American who's a counterterrorism expert. She was recently forced out as special agent in charge of the FBI's Salt Lake City Bureau, which is the one investigating Kirk's shooting. Kyle Seraphin, who's actually MAGA, but I think had a falling out with Kash over some internecine war I don't know about. He was an FBI agent. He was yesterday calling Kash a screw-up, a moron. This is the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen from a former FBI director. I mean, at some point, there is some dark comedy in this, just how incompetent Kash Patel is. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, it's fucking serious. Like, this is serious. Like, I'm not blaming like the FBI's incompetence on Charlie Kirk's assassination, but the fact that the FBI is firing people who are good at protecting people and replacing them with other stooges, the fact that they're firing people that are specialized in actual domestic terrorism, white supremacy, far radical terrorism, whatever the ideology, domestically, they're getting rid of those people, replacing it with immigration, enforcement. It's bad.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the administration is like DEI for idiots in a way. People who are just loyalists and they don't really have any other skills besides following marching orders and doing whatever the president says. Can we speak very briefly about that video that the White House put out last night?
Oh my God. Yeah. I should have had. Yep. Thank you. Please.
This
is why you're also an executive producer of a podcast. Please produce this podcast for me a little bit better.
No, I was just thinking, like, talk about ineptitude.
I just don't like playing Trump's. I don't like showing. I don't like playing Trump's voice on this podcast. We play it as little as possible. So I had not pulled the audio. But so for folks who haven't seen it, tell them what they put up.
So Donald Trump gave the audio and the content of the statement was predictable, right? It was what you would expect Donald Trump to say in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death. But what stood out to me was that it did not look like a video that was like a real video. It looked like it was AI generated. And I don't know if I'm just completely like Epstein pilled at this point. I don't know.
I'm telling you this. Donald Trump Jr.'s written statement about the assassination was, I guess I can't say definitely. I strongly suspect it was ChatGPT written because it had all of the marks of it, the M dashes. It didn't sound like Donald Trump Jr. He started it by saying he's not good at this, which felt like kind of a confession. Anyway, so that's my. If you're going to be Epstein pilled, I'll be Epstein pilled on
it's
Donald
just
Trump,
a heavily
Trump Jr.
Yeah. ChatGPT should have an official cabinet post at this point with the amount of AI that's being used to generate statements, executive orders. But if you watch the video is strange. the color is like hyper pigmented. His hands move strangely. His face moves strangely. It like rung some bells for me, some alarm bells. It was like,
he's also blaming the radical left. I don't know. I texted with a couple of your colleagues actually over there, Crooked Media, about this, where they're like, this is ominous, because he's, talking about how it's the radical left's fault and all this, in addition to being weirdly taped. And I don't know. I'm so catastrophizing about the state of affairs. I looked at it and I was like, well, thank God he hasn't called martial law yet. I don't know. And I referenced this earlier, but regardless of what we find out over the next little bit, based on what we've heard of what they're saying is on those bullets, I'm pretty concerned about. And we saw from Big Balls what they did in DC after he got beat up. I think that there's some potentially ominous power grabs coming from the federal government.
Okay, fair. I'm going to say this. Maybe I'm Pollyannaing this.
I would love that. This podcast listeners need a Pollyanna, so please.
This happened in a very red state, in a very red county, in a like there is a Republican governor, a Republican supermajority in Utah legislature, the county, the city, there is not a single drop of blue in any position of power in Orem, Utah.
Yeah.
So there is no blue city to invade. If this had happened in Atlanta, I would be terrified for everyone that lives in Atlanta. But is Donald Trump going to invade Utah? Like, I don't know how there is a plausible justification for a martial law crackdown. And I also don't think that the president has the resources to do what he did in DC on a nationwide scale. He is going to run out of goons, right? Like, there are not enough people to do. ICE is having trouble recruiting. Like, I'm saying, like, there is a limited number of MAGA goon resources at Trump's disposal. And I don't think that there is a clear geographic target for retribution. But that doesn't mean that, like, they couldn't crack down in some other, like, non-geographic way, but with like restricting speech, restricting travel, something like that.
Going
but
after lefty groups of some kind.
Exactly. I'm just going to say, if you are somebody who is progressive on the left or on anti-MAGA in any way, shape, or form, just be very careful with yourself for the next couple weeks. If somebody is speaking to you about something in a way that feels like incitey, don't do it. Like, don't talk about violence. Don't do violence. Don't just do not do it.
Here's my final and another thing on this is, like, I think that especially in our world, I don't, people who pay really close attention to this, who know everything Donald Trump's doing, there's a lot of people who rightly, myself, top of the list, are like deeply concerned about where we are at in the state of the country and where our trajectory is. But, like, we're at like a 64 on the way to Haiti or, Cambodia. This shit can get a lot fucking worse than it is now. And, like, that is my other caution about all of this, is that, like, sometimes people are a little flip about, like, things are already so bad. It's already authoritarianism. It's already done. You know what I mean? And, like, they can make things a lot worse. And so there's my anti-Pollyanna, which is in the spirit of the podcast. You've mentioned Epstein. I want to move. We're doing a hard pivot.
Is it that hard of a pivot, though?
Not if
you're a conspiracy theorist.
Not if you're a conspiracy theorist, which I am not. I wish I was. I was watching Candace Owens' podcast yesterday. She was like, she has this theory that the Stanford prison experiment in the 70s, one of the prisoners was Brigitte Macron. I swear to God. And she's like she's doing this thing where she's done all this research, and she's like, prisoner number 2603 was this person in prison. And it's a code. Prisoner number 706 was Brigitte when she was a man. And I'm like, man, fuck, I am jealous of you. Like, this is why your engagement is so much better than mine. Like, I wish I had that conspiracy bone in me that could pull that off.
Oh, I do. So,
okay, great. Here we go.
Not the Macron thing.
You're not doing any dick checks on worldwide global first ladies?
I'm not giving a cup, like a cup to anybody. No, I'm not doing that. I don't believe in any of that. But I did just get done researching this project I'm working on about Ghillane Maxwell.
Okay.
It's for work. It's not just like, I'm not just like doing
Great.
it.
And on this topic, I want you to tell me about it, but I should just say breaking news this morning. Bloomberg has released an email cache of 18,000 emails from Epstein, which goes very deep on his relationship with Ghillane. And so it's back in the news.
Interesting. Well, I'm going to be reading all 18,000.
Okay, great. What have you found?
Because I'm Epstein pilled. The Epstein thing continues to get pretty hot for President Trump. This week, I believe it was this week earlier, the House Oversight Committee released a page from Epstein's birthday book that Donald Trump definitely probably drew. And it seems like it's just not going away in any way, shape, or form.
Well, can you tell us more about your Ghillane research project?
We do a series at Crooked called This Effing Guy. Can I say the F word?
Oh, of course. I'm a little hurt that you're not a daily listener to the podcast because I'm fucking this, fucking.
I hear
my poor child has just dropped the F-bomb at my husband yesterday. I'm like, oh man, I hope grandma isn't listening to this podcast. But anyway, continue.
God. I hear the F word so much that I don't think it like registers to me because I do listen to your podcast on the daily.
I'm just joking. Same. Thank you.
Okay. So we do a series called This Fucking Guy, and it's like a deep dive into the sort of like biography of somebody who is kind of like making America worse. It's a very simple concept, right? But usually I do a lot of the research for it. So I end up having to just like go deep into like newspaper clippings from the 90s. And, I feel like I'm in one of those like supercuts of somebody, learning something at the library and microfiche and all that stuff. So we just completed shooting Ghillane Maxwell, and it's really crazy how her life and how many ties she's had to like intelligence and like foreign intelligence for her whole life. Her father died mysteriously by falling off of a yacht off the Canary Islands. He was buried in the Mount of Olives in Israel. There's a book about him called Robert Maxwell, Israel's Super Spy. There's also a theory that he was working with the Soviets as he allowed his printing press to be like a mouthpiece for propaganda from the Soviets in the 80s, including Nicolae Ceausescu, which is a crazy person to promote. And then she, as soon as her father died, she started working for Jeffrey Epstein. But the nature of their relationship has always been very strange because she was working for him, but they were sleeping together, but they broke up, but she kept working together, but she kept sleeping in his bed. It is very odd. And she also told feds in July that they broke up because of 9/11, because on 9/11 he didn't want to come over and hang out with her. So they broke up. But then she kept working with him till 2009. None of it makes sense. It all just like feels very odd. And a lot of people who have been close to either Robert or Ghillane Maxwell or Jeffrey Epstein have died mysterious deaths. So there's that too.
I'm excited to watch this.
Oh,
I guess I should say
lost my marbles.
I guess I should just say, me calling you out for not listening to this podcast was my Jeb Please Clap moment. It was like, please tell me that you're a fan. I am a watcher of, like Jeb, like son. I am a fan of this series that you're mentioning, and one of them we're going to end with talking about as a little dessert for everybody if they made it this far on the podcast. So stick around. We have the other. It's very serious. I mean, I guess it's the state of the generation and whether we procreate as a species. So it's another serious topic that I want to get to. There was this poll that was going around this week that I have given my manly thoughts on. That some folks gave me negative feedback on, and I was like, Aaron would be the great person to talk to this poll about. I noticed you did a long thread on it. So, for people who missed it, I was talking about like the question was essentially, how do you define success in life? And young male Gen Z voters who voted for Trump rated having children as one of the first two things that were most important to them. Gen Z women who voted for Harris ranked this as the least important thing. So the only thing less important was being famous. Which I thought I took a deep breath of sigh of relief at that, at least, that the Gen Z folks are not just mostly focused on TikTok fame. So that's good. So thumbs up to Gen Z for that. But the Gen Z Harris voters ranked having kids and a spouse as least important to self-definition of success. So, I'm concerned about this for a variety of reasons. But I guess I want to hear your reaction first.
I mean, okay, so the definition of success is the way that it was like the question was asked, but I think a different way to think about it is like, what is something that you believe will show that you like, what benefits you? What is something beneficial to you? What is something that would be fulfilling for you?
Sure. Yeah.
And what we're seeing is that women are like, getting married and having children would not be something that is fulfilling, and men are saying that it is, right? I think women don't want their mother's lives and men want their father's lives. Like, and we're talking like broad brushes with like heterosexual.
Yeah, sure.
Couples,
this whole
right?
conversation is going to be, we should just have a big caveat right here. There are exceptions to everything. Right? Like this is, we're generalizing. We're generalizing across a very big, diverse society. But anyway, continue.
Right. I think that the amount of labor that is expected of women in the context of marriage that is not compensated, or marriage and childbearing that is not compensated, recognized, or even respected, especially by people on the right, is something that women are onto. Young women especially, they see what their mothers have gone through. I think most women I know at one point got pulled aside by a female relative, a mom, a grandma, an aunt, somebody, and said, you go to college, you don't let guys do this. You don't want to be doing this. You should do something different than what I'm doing. And I don't know that men had the same thing happen.
Different than what I'm doing in what way? Can you expand on that a little bit? Yeah.
So like, I think that the typical breakdown of like how much housework is done by women versus men and what is expected of women in the context of the home it's disproportionately seen as a woman's job and a woman's role to like clean the house, raise the kids. It's also like 100% women's biological labor to be pregnant and have children and deal with all of the biological aftermath of that. Like I mentioned before, I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and like you cannot downplay the like physical cost of having a child on your actual body. Like, of course, men are like, yeah, have a kid. Yeah, have a kid. That's not anything that's like on his body. That he doesn't have to be pregnant. He doesn't.
I would
have
say
to
this
birth.
even as a dad. I'm going to say one of my eye-opening moments to when my daughter was born was I wouldn't say I got chastised is not the right word, but I got my horizons expanded when I was kind of talking with some of my girlfriends about how like, yeah, I mean, whatever, like kid doesn't sleep that much at night, but we're doing pretty good, you know, like we're taking turns on doing the nighttime feedings. And they're like, oh yeah, but you aren't experiencing like this changed my body, that changed my body. I learned a little bit too much about all the changes to women's bodies and the fallout following birth. So like, no doubt, like totally hear you. Heard.
Right. So, and that's something that can't be overcome. Like we cannot erase the toll. The
money
physical...
doesn't even solve that, really. And you could have a night nurse, but it doesn't. That helps. It makes it better. But like,
it doesn't save you from the hormone crash or like lactation and all this stuff, like the painful things that happen to you when you give birth. Like a C-section is like one of the gnarliest surgeries that exists. Giving birth the regular way, also not a walk in the park. You know what I mean? It's all. The only way out is through something very like bloody and costly on your body, right? So the way to get women to care more, if we're trying to focus on family formation, right? If we believe that family formation is good, then what we need to do as a society is...
Do you? That caveat makes you think maybe you're on the fence on that.
Do I
think family formation is good at a value that we should be promoting.
It is. I think that it's something that should be accessible to everybody who wants to do it. But I think the reason that people don't want to do it is because it's not worth it to them. And the reason it's not worth it to them is because of all the labor and the toll it takes on their body and a lack of a social safety net, a complete lack of a social safety net. Like there is no, we don't have, childcare is like crazy expensive. It's like for 2 kids, every month we pay like twice what our rent is in childcare. Like it's crazy. Wow. There is basically no paid maternity leave or parental leave in this country. You're lucky if you get even a few weeks of paid leave. Like there's just systemic issues that are like, why would I do this? This sounds like a huge logistical pain in the ass. But then I think that there are cultural issues around the value that men add to their households beyond just earning a paycheck. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like value,
yes.
Like participating in raising the child, like participating in doing housework, participating in being a good roommate. Like, I think that there are a lot, I have friends, my husband is like, one of the good ones, but I have a couple friends that married guys that are like allegedly progressive and they went to college and they're super smart. And you'd think that they would be like groovy, but the expectations that are on my friends who like, went to the same college as they did, earn just as much, if not more money than they do. The expectation is still that my female friends are like doing the child rearing. They're scheduling everything. They're managing the house. They're doing all the housework. And it's like kind of a raw fucking deal. Like, why would you want to aspire to be made into a servant and contribute much more than half of the resources? And by resources, I mean emotional, fiscal, and like, time resources to your household. Like, why? Why would that be appealing to a woman? So in order for that to change, we need to change the culture around young men and teach them that it is very important for them to be useful to their households in ways that transcend financial. They need to be emotionally useful. They need to be able to like do things around the house. Can you prepare a simple meal? Can you fix things? Everybody should aim to be a productive member of a household. And here's my giant swing in this, right. And another
Let's do it. Let's hear it.
Rant I'm going on. I think every American student in all schools should be required to take 4 years of home ec. 4 years of home ec and 4 years of shop. 4 years, every single year of high school.
Yeah.
No. Well, exactly. But I think it should be 4 years. Teach you how to do things like how to live in a house and be a useful member of a household. Like, these are things that people are not being taught, and especially men. And I just think that is probably one of the two-pronged ways into more women who want to have kids finding a suitable partner and feeling supported enough to have kids. So those are my thoughts.
That's a good rant. I would add on to that, and maybe this cuts both ways because you're trying to encourage men to be better husbands. They shouldn't need this, but like also the social credit men get for doing parenting is much greater.
Holy shit.
So it's like not surprising that men would be happier about having kids. Like I got to not as much anymore because she's 7, but when I go on an airplane with my daughter, like between ages of baby and like 3 or 4, maybe. I mean, you would think I was Mother Teresa. People are asking to help me hold do you need help with your bag? Do you want me to hold her a little bit? Do you want me to buy you a drink? I mean, I've never been treated so well in my life anywhere.
Yeah.
And so that is definitely, I mean, that's just one example of a broader trend. But maybe that's good at some level because we want to give men positive encouragement, but maybe that's counterproductive, frankly, because
it's counterproductive because also like women are at the same, like we're kind of demonized for taking kids in public. Like, I think that this kind of like anti-child thing that we're seeing in like, especially child-free spaces online, which I understand are kind of a hornet's nest. Yeah. There is a real like anger at children being in spaces like, restaurants and grocery stores and breweries or whatever. And I think that there is something to be said for like kids being well behaved or whatever. But like I've seen like threads where people are like, yeah, there should be child-free flights. I would pay for a child-free flight. It's like, yeah.
Fuck you.
Yuck.
Fuck you.
Like,
yeah. So this goes to this is what I want to get to. This is where I don't even know if it's pushback, but I guess I want to get your perspective on this of something that's that I think could live simultaneously with your accurate critique of our society, which is like being a mom always kind of sucked. Right, like a lot of things that you just said, some of it is particularly true now because women are working more, right? And so it's kind of they're getting a double whammy. But like a lot of the other things that you said were always true, maybe even worse, frankly, in past times. Mm-hmm. And like we're at a moment now where, women born in the 2000s are having like half as many children as the previous cohort. So like that's not a poll, like that's like actual data. We have the amount of people who say they want to be child-free, not childless, to your point of these child-free spaces, like not I wanted a kid, but it just didn't happen. I didn't find the right partner. We had medical issues, whatever. But like, I'm choosing to not. Like that number is skyrocketing right now. And I just think that like, at some level, I agree with you that we need to do it from a policy wise, like things to make parenting more appealing and better. Like I agree with basically every recommendation you had, except maybe 4 years might be a little much of home ec, but why don't we settle on one? We'll start with one and see how it goes.
Okay.
But besides that, I'm with you. But like, I just think somewhere there's a cultural thing that I see particularly on the left, particularly with younger people, about how like, I can't bring a kid into this world. The world is so terrible. Climate is happening. Being a mom is terrible. I need to have a home and a mortgage and a 401k and stuff before I'm ready to have a kid. And I think that there's like a cultural message that's being sent to young people that's maybe setting them up to fail because for like all of the challenging parts about being a parent, it's also like an unbelievable blessing. And and if you look at studies of people older in life, like older people are happier when they have like grandkids around, when they have a spouse around. And I just worry that people are being pushed to a direction that is harmful, particularly young women, because they're focusing on the negatives and the challenges, which are real and we should ameliorate, rather than like getting a narrative told to them about like the value. What do you think about that?
Well, I have a little bit of pushback there. I think that young girls and women are a little bit more socially adept. They're raised to like form their own social groups. That's like, they're better at like, I think girls are better at like forming communities, generally speaking. Young women are better at like forming communities. And actually the forming community thing is like a lot of times within a heterosexual marriage, it is like the woman's responsibility to like manage the social life of the household. Like men who are single they're not really great at like making friends or forming a friend group.
That's true. I noticed that. I'm carrying the woman's role in my household on that one. You know, the nice thing about a gay is like the stereotypes we can trade back and forth, you know, but I'm carrying that one. But yeah, I hear you. That is true. I noticed that.
Yeah. So that's something that, and I don't think men are as good at making friends. And so I think that the loneliness in old age is not something necessarily that I would say that women are that are going to suffer. I think that there are a lot of like
lack of fulfillment though, or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. There's like, there are going to be a lot.
I'm not saying you can't. I just want to say this because people think about it. I'm not saying you can't be a fulfilled single older woman or man for that matter that didn't ever have kids. You absolutely can't. I'm just saying that like people, that maybe people are not hearing the positive side of the fulfillment that can come from making the sacrifices to do it. I guess is my point.
I think that being a mother is like very costly in many ways, and the way that it benefits you, it's costly in tangible ways and beneficial in like intangible ways.
Right.
And so I think that it is easy for someone to wrap their head around the fact that like, okay, here's something. So I got 2 little kids. It was a choice I made. I wanted to have 2. My career is like completely, all I can do is, all of my time is spoken for, right? I can't like write a book proposal. I don't have time. Like I go home and I take care of my kids. My husband and I take care of the kids. Like I don't have time to develop more like hobbies. I haven't been to a concert in years. I used to love going to shows. Like I don't really get to read as much as I like to. Like all of these things when it comes to like personal development are kind of on pause while I deal with this very demanding phase in motherhood. It's difficult for me to socialize. It's difficult. Like I have to plan my entire day. I feel very like constrained. And I think that that's something that a lot of women don't want to have to deal with even in a short period of time, because it's like, I live in a neighborhood in LA with a lot of like moms who are my age, a lot of older moms. And it's very easy to make friends at the playground. But I think in other places, it's kind of a lonely existence. Like you don't have time to socialize. You only are taking care of your kids. You like if you're a stay-at-home mom, like when are you getting to hang out with other people? I think that there's a lot of like, people can see the drawbacks in the short term and they don't really think that it's worth the upside of like fulfillment in the long term. Also, I'm just going to say this. I got 2 kids, love them, think they're great. They're so cute. This morning, my little one was like taking one of my makeup brushes and putting it in her mouth and then running away when I tried to take it away from her. So that was cute.
I love that. Is that a case for children or against? I don't know.
She
it's for eye of the beholder story. Yeah.
She thinks it's funny. She loves this like Miss Rachel sketch where they do the like sign language ABCs, and she like gets really excited when they get to Z and she makes the Z sign language. Like she's so cute. I think that like it is a perfectly valid life path to not have kids. The thing that is upsetting to me is that the reasons that people may not want to, that women may not want to, are not because they don't like kids or they don't like think it might be good, but it's because they lack the support and they don't think that they could find somebody they can rely on to help them do it in a way that isn't completely like self-immolation. So that's my thought. Also, I think that there's a lot of people that have 1 kid that would like to have 2, or people that have 2 that would like to have 3 and can't because this country is shitty to parents, like absolutely no support. So I think that's a factor as well.
Here's where we have an agreement, and Josh Hawley agrees with us too. We should be supporting parents more. At least he says that he does. All right, well, good. This is why I had you on. It's important for me to challenge myself. Some of that, those answers hurt me on the inside, but I realized that I need to expand I just need to expand my worldview, and some listeners want to hear all the worldview. Hear from folks that have different backgrounds and perspective. I don't know. look, we're all solipsistic at some level. So I'm just going to just talk about my own life and experience. And this is all you can really know. But like, my mother had me when she was a fucking baby. She was a child. They had no money. We were in a tiny duplex. Like, her life was very challenging. She was still a nurse at the time. And I just think that is a common story of a lot of people throughout a lot of history, is that like, it was challenging, it was hard, it was financially hard, it was physically hard, but it also is like really fulfilling and important and meaningful and brings love to the world. And I love little babies, and hopefully I brought love to my mother most years. There were some years where I didn't, I think. On balance, in the end, it's like, it's worthwhile. And that's not for everybody. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but it's a bit like, I hate sometimes when I feel like the worthwhile part of the story is lost. And I worry, I think that for people who are like 22 right now, they're hearing a lot of why it's not worthwhile. That's the part that pains me a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's not apples to apples here, right? Because back when you were a kid, a minimum wage job would get much closer to paying rent on an apartment than it does now, right?
Sure.
There was, I think, a lot more opportunity for people who are like middle and working class to have a life with children that worked. But I don't think that's the case now. Housing is so expensive. Minimum wage has not gone up since, since 1997 or something like that. It's like, it's been so long. Like, the financial demands.
I agree with all that. I'm just saying you also hear these arguments from people that are like from pretty privileged families too. Like, sure. I'm just saying, like, it's a widespread feeling. I definitely, sure. I am totally with you. Particularly like it's very hard right now for, working lower middle, working class, young.
Yeah.
Gen
I mean,
Z
you do have to give up
cities
creature comforts. You have to give up creature comforts. Yeah. Like, when I have these kids and this massive childcare expense so that I can go to work every month, it's like, we can't really go on. We used to go on really cool vacations.
Right.
We can't do that anymore.
Yeah,
like, we used to.
Sounds nice,
Yeah. I used to like wear Mykonos. Come on, Mykonos.
I don't know. I was just picking the first one that came to mind.
Eos and Kos are better. It's like people are like happy with the amount of like pleasure and leisure that exists in their lives, and like when you have kids, you really have to dial that back, even for logistical reasons, but also probably for financial reasons as well.
I've taken too much of your time, as you already mentioned. You have a lot of time, and so but you had one provocative tweet I absolutely have to ask you about. I cannot let you go if I did not ask you about it. And so what that means is we have to cut the time where we are going to discuss crazy Nancy Mace. And that is good, because I'm putting the video to the link in this episode. We can promote Hysteria. You can go to the Hysteria YouTube feed and watch one of Aaron's deep dives on Nancy Mace. As insane as you think Nancy Mace is, it's a whole different level. I mean, it is wild. So anyway, I'm just going to leave it at that. It's a cliffhanger for people. Here's your tweet. I think I agree. I might be in trouble. I think I agree.
Okay.
Surrogacy should be so regulated that for most people it's illegal. That is a controversial statement.
Yeah.
I want to hear why you said it, and we'll. I
said that. Okay. Well, I said that because there was this Wired article that ran, I think, last week, and it was about a venture capitalist in San Francisco who hired 2 surrogates to carry her babies at the same time because she wanted twins. And the baby boy died in utero because of a placental issue. Like the placenta detached in the pregnancy was no longer viable and the baby died, which is very sad. But this biological mom, biomom, went absolutely rip shit on the surrogate. Absolutely rip shit, like trying to ruin her. She called the FBI on her like 12 times. Like, I think that there's something that feels very exploitative about for-profit surrogacy being a thing that exists. Like, you can't sell organs legally, right? I don't think you should be able to sell. I think that buying another person's body is unethical. And it kind of, talk about catastrophizing as like a kind of like, late stage capitalism, like post-Roe catastrophizing person. I think that where this is leading, where unregulated surrogacy is leading, is a world where poor women's bodies are for rent by rich women. I think that surrogacy should be allowed for people who physically cannot have their own children, and it should be very, very regulated. Like, it should be available to people who are medically unable to. And I don't mean like by age. I mean, like, you're 35, you have cancer, you got to get like chemo and you can't have your own kids. Like, or if you're like a same-sex couple and neither of you could carry a child. I think that those are acceptable, but I think that it should just be so regulated, and surrogates should be very protected, because what happened to this woman in the Wired piece is like super fucked up.
I'm happy you said it. I don't know. Look, I again honor people the one that have surrogacy and that do it the right way and that love those babies and the birth moms that are doing it. But I agree. I think the unregulated. I think that it can veer into an area of creepiness, and that people are kind of afraid to say that because they don't want to hurt I think, right, for good reason. They don't want to hurt the feelings of like friends in their life, whatever, that have gone the surrogacy route, and I don't want to. But we need rules around shit, because there are people that abuse everything. And I don't know. That's been something that's been like creeping in the back of my head for a little while that I just sort of, keep in my household. But since you tweeted it, I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's hear about it. I think that's
eventually
a fair,
I think we're in a collision course with that conversation. Like, eventually it's going to be something that everybody's talking about, because like this case that was written about in Wired is like egregious. And for every story that you read about something like that, that there's some stories that have gone untold and that are just kind of like these small, terrible things that are happening in people's lives.
Oh man, thank you so much. We had so many fraught topics today.
Oh my God.
I appreciate you like putting yourself out there, being willing to do this, and being honest with us. And who the hell knows? We'll talk about next time. But I'd like to do it again. All right.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Boy, that was a heavy one. But I really appreciate Aaron coming on to do that and working through it all with me today. We have one of our favorites tomorrow, thank God. So hopefully he can give us some wisdom and guidance. We've got a bunch of other stuff to get to, particularly the latest out of NATO, I guess, and Russia's attacks on Poland. So it'll be a good episode tomorrow. Hope to see you all then. Hang in there. Love each other. Hug your kids. Peace.